Kids, welcome back to another fantastic episode of No Subs, No Dubs. I'm your host, Casey Kidd. In the producer's box, we got Baka Boy. And, well, today we are doing Let the Right One In. But first, a shout out, right? Baka Boy wants me to do these shout outs. So I was looking around. And I think that I'm going to shout out this channel on YouTube. Just search What's So Great About That. I guess the YouTube channel's called What's So Great About That. And they're really good video essays. I enjoy the on horror ones, the video game ones as well. Those are the ones I typically watch. And this What's So Great About That, YouTube channel one, and it looks fantastic. It sounds good, and it's the episodes are interesting. They're interesting, and they're sourced, and they're not like according to Wikipedia. And at the end of it, like the footage that is used and whatnot, and it's put in the credits section, and I just think it's a good channel. So anyway, enough of that. Let's get into it. Let's start. Right, so I watched the Let the Right One In. By the way, welcome back, but if you don't know, this is going to be semi-spoiler heavy, and no subs, no dubs. We refuse to watch the so-called foreign films, or international films, as they're now known as, right? International films without subtitles, and definitely not with dubs. So, no subs, no dubs. The idea there is obviously there's a giant language barrier between, in this case, me and Swedish. I don't speak Swedish. I'm not from Sweden, and I don't have blonde hair. There's a lot of people in this with blonde hair, so I didn't even have to look that up. I was like, Swedish, I was just watching it, and I was like, they're in Sweden. That makes sense. There's the spoilers, and I will most likely not get anything or much of it right. So be forewarned, okay? Take this at your own risk. So there's a number of characters in this. The main one's the super blonde boy. I'm not going to call him super blonde boy each time, but he's super blonde. I'm just going to call him blonde boy. We meet him and he's shirtless. There's this blonde bully kid in a league of their own little bullies. An angry looking man. And then this torture briefcase fellow. The angry looking man, I think, is the Van Helsing. And this is a vampire thing, by the way. 1 second. I gotta take a drink. I gotta take a drink of my... You like that? Noise. I am taking a drink of my Coke that has been spiced. So my spicy Coke. The angry looking man is the Van Helsing of this. There's this black-haired girlie. She's like the love interest for the blonde-haired boy. Okay? You got super blonde-haired boy, now blonde-haired boy. Black-haired girlie. They're into each other. And then I think there's Mommy and Mommy's man, but I'm not quite sure if Mommy has a man. I know blonde-haired boy's got a father. And then there's a slew of teachers and other people who don't really matter. Okay. So, at the beginning, you hear some, creepy Swedish words. I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. Then you see a scared, shirtless boy. This is the blonde boy, right? And he grabs a knife. And first off, I'm like, put on a shirt, kid. I don't want to watch smut, but I guess I am. And he's grabbing a knife, and he's scared, and that's kind of pretty much it at this point. He goes to school next. And it's a slow movie, by the way, but a lot of different transitions and stuff. So hopefully this is decipherable and not just, here to here to here. It's a very artsy film, it feels like. It's very beautiful at points. Very beautiful. Slow. It doesn't feel too super long, but definitely slow. Oh, and then a note. I had to watch this movie with a pillow in front of my TV screen because I couldn't just take off the subs. So I'm going to be even more backwards in this review than normal. And I've complained about this before. I think there should be a no subs option as well as a no dubs option. And in these companies, people who make movies, who think English speakers are the first and foremost, and they have to read it, are all wrong. A lot of us, I assume, hopefully the people listening, want to watch these movies with no clue what's going on. And they don't have to put a pillow in front of their TV so they don't see like a section of their TV that just has the subtitles. So you've been warned again, because I might mess this up even more than I'm going to. Okay, now where we were at. The shirtless blonde boy grabbing a knife, all scared and whatnot. At school, he answers this question, I guess, from the teacher, and then he gets like a little bullied, it seems like, and then it cuts away, and it's going to this briefcase fella, and this briefcase fella is dressed up all American Psycho, and I'm like, he's going in for a killing. Is this the bad guy in this? And he gets this briefcase all ready, and he goes up to some dude in the woods, and he definitely goes all American Psycho. He gets him, and he puts his hanging body up, and he starts draining the blood like you do, and a dog comes in, and a dog escapes from its owner, and the first thing is blood smell, so it goes straight to the hanging body, and the guy's like, shoo, get away, go doggy. And then there's two girls in the woods with a dog that doesn't look like it'll fiend off the wolves that live in those woods, let alone this Swedish Psycho. I apologize deeply. Swedish Psycho draining blood from a fella. But he's not a fighter. What he did with the first fella was he put a suction mask thing over him and knocked him out. So he didn't really fight, and he doesn't want to have to knock one of the girls out, and the other girl runs, and then he has to fight because he's not a fighter. So he just runs away while the hanging body, and the girls are looking at it okay, So there's that. And then we see this scene with the blonde boy. So I guess he got bullied earlier, a little in class, right? And he's stabbing a tree, or stabbing at a tree. He's practicing his killing stuff. And then this black-haired girlie shows up. And the black-haired girlie shows up, and she's like, what are you doing? And I noticed immediately looking at this girl, you are not dressed for this weather. You're a little bit off. I'm going to have to watch you. Even though you're like, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is Sweden in winter. You need to be dressed more appropriately, lady. But she isn't dressed for the weather. And I at this point, I'm suspecting something with this black-haired girlie. Then it goes into more school stuff. And there's the bully's a jerk and whatnot. It's kind of, what it is. And then there's a scene where after that, you go into the blonde-haired boy's mom's there. But she's kind of okay. She's not really there, So I don't know what her deal is at this point. And then you go to this restaurant discussion scene. This is complete, no kids in this, right? It's just the men. There's this angry, weird man there. I think he's the Van Helsing character of this, or the detective, but I'm going to call him Van Helsing. Swedish Van Helsing, right? And Swedish Van Helsing's asking around about so, hanging bodies, right? That's kind of weird. It's not really Swedish meatballs. And they all have a giggle. And then he looks at some fellow and he's like, about that fellow. Now he looks at Swedish Psycho, the American Psycho dude, but he's Swedish Psycho now. He looks at him and then they have a little talk and it looks like he's kind of messing with him. And they're all like, yeah, that guy's weird. So he talks to him and he's kind of weird. And then it's the talk's done. So it goes back to the girlie and the black-haired boy. Baka boy, cut that. I look like an idiot. Black-haired girlie and blonde boy, right? It goes back to a scene with this, and it's a long scene, and they just are entranced by this Rubik's Cube, right? They just talk about the Rubik's Cube. A long discussion on the Rubik's Cube, which I've had a long discussion with good friends on a Rubik's Cube in its magical, mysterious ways. But boy, that was a long scene. And then it goes into, I think so that goes away. And it goes back to, you remember the restaurant scene? I think there's a fellow at the restaurant Well, now he's walking around, and he's got his Ignatius, his Confederacy of Dunces red and black coat, right? Is that what he wore? And the checkered coat, okay? And he's walking around, I'm like, that's a good coat. That's a coat that makes sense in this weather. But I suspect something's bad is going to happen to you. And, yep, the black-haired girlie, she did a bad thing. She got into his blood. I think she's a vampire, right? So she got to get that blood. It's a whole thing. So that dude's dead. And then there's this weird window shot of the kid and arguing. It's like one window here, one window there. I thought the window, it wasn't weird. It was really pretty, but it was weird because I was like, I don't know what's going on still. And I don't know what's going on at another window. But there was some sort of like fornication sounds or something after that. The blonde kid's listening, or maybe it wasn't that at all. But it sounded weird. And then there's some other adult. So we cut to a new scene, and there's this turtle face looking guy, and he goes into a cat house. All these cats. And he gathers people around to see, he gathers people from the cat house to see the crime of the Ignatius dude. That guy's dead. Let's look at him. So they look at him, right? And it's like, ugh. And then you cut to, remember Swedish Psycho? Well, he's helping black-haired girlie. And he's helping black-haired girlie move a body now. And we're like, you must be the dad, but I'm going to call you Swedish Psycho. Because this is what I saw you in, like, the plastic, suit and everything. You didn't want to get blood on you. So they move a body into like the river or something. Maybe it's, I think it is Ignatius. They move him. And then the next day or the next night or whatever, black-haired girl and blonde boy talk more about the cube. No, it's in the morning. The blonde boy finds the cube and it's been done. And he's just, when you see a Rubik's Cube that's all jangled up and messed up and whatnot, and then it gets completed, you just start sweating because you're like, this is so beautiful. You start crying, right? Because you're like, how did someone do this? And so the kid's in trance, obviously. And then there's more cube talk. There's just a bunch of cube talk in this movie. You get back to school time, right? So the kids are getting ready to leave, whatnot, and you see blonde boy, and he's just studying Morse code. So I think he knows the black-haired girl's like in the room next to him or something, so he can tap a few times and make some noise, and she'll be like, I know Morse code too. What I notice, and so he gets out of the school, and what I notice is just these mountains of snow, whereas like there's a lot of places you could just hide a body for 6 months, and then it just melt away. Just mountains of snow. And it's in this parking lot area where the bullies, remember, he got bullied earlier, and there's like the head blonde bully. Well, the head blonde bully bullies blonde boy, and it's not good. It's not good. They like, let me see your Morse code, and he's like, okay, and he gives it to him, and then they whip him, and they hit him in the face with the whip. It's BDS time for blonde boy. It is not fun. He does not look amused or what's the word? Gratification, Baka boy? Is that the word? He's not gratified whatsoever with the whipping. And blonde boy goes home, and his mom, blonde boy's mommy, doesn't even like notice his face. I don't think. It's weird. It's like she's in her own little world. So it is whatever, but he goes outside again because he's always constantly outside near the jungle gym and whatnot. The jungle gym that looks like from Soviet Russia, and it's all covered in snow. He sees the girlie again, black-haired girlie, and she notices the cut in his face, and she's concerned. Like she's gonna kill eventually, because these kids, these bullies, they need a whipping, and they need this girl to do it. But yeah, they touch hands. It kind of gets a little weird. Or the blonde boy gets a little weird about it. When you're a kid, you touch hands for the first time with a girl with black hair. You get a little nervous and a little weird. That's another thing too in Sweden. It's like, of course, you're the vampire. Look at that jet black, raven black hair. Everyone else here is blonde. And white, might I add. Very white movie. I'm a little... Why hasn't this movie been canceled yet? Why hasn't Sweden been canceled? You know, what's with Sweden? Everyone's just super blonde and white there? I don't know. I believe that's the case. There's some Morse code wall touching and tapping and stuff. And then there's the girlie she visits, and there's a cat. And the cat does not like it. The cat freaks out, right? And does like a cat face, but it's very, very frightening. She eats like food, and then she has to puke it up. And then the kids talk, and they hug and talk about the cube. They are obsessed with this cube. And then it's weird. It's like it kind of cuts away from that action and goes to the blonde boys. He visits his dad for the weekend. He goes at the farm, at the Swedish snow farm. And there's that. That was a little bit of a break from the cube talk. But I suspect they talked a good many Rubik's Cubes during that time. And then there's some like killing stuff ready between the dad, Swedish psycho, and dark-haired girlie. I think the dad-father dynamic, or maybe he's just like, I'm your servant. I have no idea. And there's a basketball game, and the Swedish psycho, right? Swedish psycho is wanting to get his basketball kill in of one of these basketball teenagers. And he's hanging this kid up. He's going to drain the blood. And that's when the punks who notice, these basketball punks, notice like their other punk isn't there. So they break back into the school, and they plan to get this guy because their friend is screaming like, Swedish Psycho's down here, you know? Swedish Psycho does not want to take that. So he goes into a stall and he drinks this like acid liquids. Yeah, he drinks acid, and he's gone, I guess. Then cuts to the blonde boy getting shredded, just working out, getting shredded. It's sad. I think the blonde boy has some sort of muscle disease, or is just super little or something, or maybe he's just a kid. He's got nothing. I think he's got a 5-pound weight on both sides, and that bar can't be 45. That bar's probably like one of those like floaty little bars, maybe 15 pounds or something. That kid is having trouble, and I think they need to work on his shredding a bit. Now he's getting shredded. Bully time, right? And the bullies decide we're going to put the pants in the urinal, which is a classic prank. It's a classic prank. So they put his pants in the urinal. Very funny. Very funny. All right, so we cut away from the kid a little bit, and black-haired girl is wondering, like, where's her father figure person? So she wanders about, and she goes, looks for the hospital, finds the hospital, and she climbs the building because she's like a vampire, so she can climb buildings. And she climbs up the building and sees that, Swedish Psycho isn't dead. Well, you got to kill him now. So she pretty much feeds on him and kills him. It's just one of those weird things where the acid didn't kill him, but it made him into like a Phantom of the Opera person. So he could have had a life. He could have just started singing on Broadway, but she needs to feed. He hasn't gotten her blood. He knows the deal. And the deal is, you feed off of me. So she feeds, and then she throws him out the window 5 stories high. So he falls and dies. Next, she visits the blonde boy, and there's some like weird, it gets a little PG-13 here. There's a lot of violence, and I'm sure you guys abhor violence at this point, but this is where it gets a little sexual, kind of. They do more hand-holding. And then she leaves with a note in the morning that says, thanks for the hand-holding. And then the next day, the blonde boy, he goes on a field trip, ice skating at a lake. It's a sports day field trip, and it's Sweden, so that's like every weekend basis we just go ice skating. So everyone knows how to ice skate. And he's got his rod. He's got a rod there, and blonde bully with his little cronies, and he's like, bully time. But Blonde Boy does not take that standing lightly. He whacks him in the head. He whacks him in the ear. And this is not good. Blonde Bully's out in ear at this point. It's not... And the whack doesn't look that bad. But, yeah, that kid, it looks like he got whacked when he started crying and falling on the floor. So, yeah, it does not look fun. And that's when little kids who are skating around, they notice something in the ice. And we get Confederacy of Dunce's coat guy, Ignatius. So they pull him out, in front of the children. Right? Now, I think they wait. And I think Van Helsing's there for a little bit. It's interesting because it kind of cuts away, because our super blonde boy hero, he hit the blonde bully with his pole and messed up his ear. So finally the blonde boy's mom gets called from the school, and mom finally notices the kid. She notices her son. She's like mad at him. And I was like, you finally noticed your kid for something. Then it cuts to like swim time antics. It's very weird. And there's a black-haired girl. This girl is stalking her blonde boy because she's got this they've imprinted, right? That's what they do. Don't they imprint in Twilight? Well, they've imprinted early on. And she's stalking him, and she gets to talking to him and stuff, and they go to a bunker, right? Outside of the school, within the school, something. It's all set up like she knew about this bunker for a while, and she's got a bloody hand, and she's like, take my bloody hand, and no. My bad, I messed this up. He cuts into his hand, blonde boy cuts into his hand, and it gets all bloody, and he's like, look at this. And she's like, I want to feed. And she like is getting all weird and crazy and turns old and runs away. And yeah, that's that. Weird. The mom goes to the cat house. I noticed this black cat. Black cat was interesting. But she goes to this cat house, and she leaves because of some sort of argument. Maybe with Van Helsing. I'm not completely sure. It was kind of weird. She gets attacked when she leaves because Girlie's craving blood, and that's the blood she noticed. So the black-haired girlie attacks and gets kicked off, and she runs away. And Mommy now wakes up as a vampire and can't deal with son or anything like that. And then there's another dad weekend thing. And they're talking some cube talk, as you do, and some dude shows up, and I was like, is this the dad's lover dude or friend? I don't know. And they talk more cube stuff. It's all about cubes in this movie. Mom now has been attacked, okay? And she goes back to the cat place for some blood. She goes back to the cat place. The cats all attack her. They mess her up. All the cats. It's very funny. When it's like not really intense, you don't know what's going on. So you see all these cats swarming her. It's very funny. And I don't know what they did to that poor actress. It's probably just CGI, but I hope somehow they just like stuck cats to her or something. So she goes to the hospital because she got all messed up. And while she's out, the kid, the blonde boy, he visits the black-haired girl. And they have a hand moment, as you do, and they talk for a bit. And there's an egg puzzle, and it breaks and reveals some sort of like silver ball. And then we're back at the hospital, and then we're not. And then there's this weird brushing scene, like teeth, So it is what it is. And at the hospital, the mommy catches fire. When they open up the window, she's dead, I guess. And she has a talk with Van Helsing, I think prior to that. And Van Helsing's like, I've seen when people catch fire, vampires. Which is true. We're back at school now. And Blonde Boy's kind of all alone in general. And Blonde Boy keeps visiting the girl. And this like long visit that keeps going on. Finally, she cracks her skull. I thought a horn was going to come out, but she's covered in blood. And I guess she got too blood-filled, right? She got filled up with too much blood, so it started pouring out of her head. So there's that. And then they have they put some record on, and the music actually sounds pretty good. I was like, I kind of wish I could search what that song is, because that music sounded pretty good. It was vampire make-out music, so it was pretty cool music. And then there's this weird part where parents cover your kids' ears. The blonde boy, he kind of takes a peek at a black-haired girl, and he takes a little peek here while she's changing, and he sees a little bit of her bits, and it's cut or something, or it's slanted the wrong way. And I was like, that's not right. But maybe it's a Swedish thing. I don't know. It's off-putting. Let's just say that. It looks scary. And then she kind of leaves, but doesn't. There's a weird cryptic note. Is it for the blonde boy? I just saw the note. And I don't know if it's weird or it's just Swedish. And I'm like looking at that thinking like, is this a serial killer's note where they did all their fake? It's probably just Swedish talk written down, right? So this is when the Van Helsing fella, he comes around, I guess to see Blonde Boy Mommy's house, or to check on Blonde Boy, or to see what's up. And he knows it's all dark and whatnot, and he's smelling the air, and he's like, vampires. And Blonde Boy's hidden, because when he came in, Blonde Boy got scared. And Van Helsing goes to this room where the black-haired girl is. And black-haired girl is like asleep. And Blonde Boy takes out his knife behind Van Helsing, because Van Helsing's there ready to kill for the cause. And Blonde Boy's like, screw your cause, I'm going to kill you first. And Van Helsing turns around and is like, son, I am 300 pounds heavier than you, or in Swedish, 12 stone or something, right? And the blonde boy, he's nervous at this point, but no. Black-haired girl wakes up and takes care of it, and she takes care of it rough. He gets killed, so Van Helsing's no more of an issue. And they have a bloody kiss afterwards, the two kids, and I'm like, okay. And then the black-haired girl, she gets gone. She just goes. She's like, I'm out. And it's like, all right. And then the blonde-haired boy gets a call, and they're talking on the phone. I'm like, what's going on here? And I guess it's the bullies on the other end. And they're calling from a payphone, which I'm like, what year is this? Right? And they're talking to each other. I'm like, okay, it's a truce. It must be a truce. Well, he goes back to school. Blonde boy goes back to school, and he's getting ready to do his workout, swim stuff. Yeah, he's fixing this kid's muscles up, and he's swimming, and it's very kind of weird because the one guy's doing this marching thing. He's like, just march when you swim. I'm like, that's not how you do it, but okay, I guess that's how they taught them then. But whatever. And while he's swimming around, the bullies play they do the burning clothes gag. They take his clothes and they burn it, which is a hilarious gag, I'm not gonna lie. They do that prank. Then the teacher, who's dancing around trying to teach this kid to swim, but he's in the air or whatnot. He's on land, and he's like, just do this, just march. He gets told yeah, they're burning stuff out there. And so he goes, oh no, I gotta leave this kid who's got no muscle ability alone, and I'll just leave because there's a fire. Which, it's a fire, but it take you 2 seconds to pull that kid out of the water. But no, screw that. There's other kids in this pool area, but the bullies come back with force. The blonde bully who got his ear messed up? Well, he brought his bigger brother, his teenage brother, and his entourage, and blonde bully's little entourage of kids too as well, but his brother as well. And they came in and they shoot all the other little children, and they got there, and blonde-haired bully's brother, it's brother bully time, right? So he brings out a knife and is threatening blonde boy, our hero, super blonde boy, and he's threatening him, and he's like, come here. And super blonde boy's like, I can't swim, so that's the only way I can do anything is come closer to the edge where you are, so okay. So it's like, don't do that. But he does it anyway. He comes over, and brother blonde this brother dude, okay? This brother dude grabs him by the head and starts drowning in his drowning time. It's drowning practice in the pool. And drowning practice goes a little long. And they also kick a radio into the pool. I was like, there's a lot of water, but don't radios just electrocute people in pools? I don't know. Maybe not. I wouldn't try that at home, but they do. And then they do this drowning practice, and it goes a little long, and while the blonde kid's getting drowned, I'm like, black-haired girl's gonna show. Black-haired girl shows up and starts the killing frenzy, and we're down in the water while she does it, but we see like the heads and stuff of blood going in the pool, and then the arm of the brother bully, his arm gets taken out and stuff, and there's this one like little kid who's a wussy boy who was like crying because he doesn't want to see some kid get drowned, so she spares him. And then the black-haired girl, she comes up and she saves blonde boy, and she saves him, and they're all good. And then there's a train ride at the end where super blonde boy is alone on a train, and then it just ends. So that's the movie. It just ends. Yeah, and that's my review. That's not my review. That's what happened, and it just ends. And then it almost went too long. Dang it, Baka boy, we're gonna have to cut out a lot of this. We won't be able to cut out much of it. That's pretty much how it ended. I must have wrote too many notes, but you had to write notes like that. So yeah, it just ends, which is kind of how I felt at the end. It just ended. It's a gothic vampire romance tale. Without subtitles, it's pretty to watch, but it's not great. You know? I can assume with subtitles I give it like a soft 4. I'm thinking more of a hard 3 right now. Let the right one in. There's also another one called Let Me In, which is the American version. I assume this one's better because I just have a feeling. So I'm not even in. I don't want to watch anything adjacent to this. But it looked really good. The killings were interesting. I like some of the characters. But when you're doing like romance and stuff like that, and then it's like vampire imprinting romance, you gotta know what they're saying. I would say in the 3s. I don't know, a hard 3 maybe. Maybe somewhere between a soft 3 and a soft 4, which I guess is a hard 3, but and I just mean that by like, I enjoyed bits of it a lot, and then other parts I was like, oh my goodness. I like the cats. The cats were cool. And of course, like, anytime I do one of these reviews, guys, kids, anytime I do one of these reviews, it's subject to change on a daily basis. I might come back tomorrow and be like, that was a classic 5 out of 5. No, it was not. I don't think I'd come back tomorrow ever saying that. It was pretty good. It was not the worst movie I saw so far, but definitely long and slow. And when the interesting parts were interesting, it was like, okay, well, that's good. And the bullying stuff, I was like, who is running this school? You guys are missing a lot of stuff. You almost had a kid just drained of his blood in some basketballer. You know, you don't want to do this. And they also play this weird like kickball game, but they're playing it as like soccer or something. And I don't know. It bothered me. I was watching. I was like, no, that's like for kickball, right? But they're soccering it around. So this, I don't want to ever go too super long in this, but there's a lot to unpack there. Oh, Baka boy. And guys, if you want to watch it, go ahead. Also, patreon.com/no-subs-no-dubs. Please support. It'd be, I think, $2 a month is if I do 4 shows a month. That's less than $1 a show. Remember Dan Carlin's $1 a show? That's half $1 a show. That's a pretty good deal. I definitely appreciate it. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you enjoy that movie if you want to watch it. I don't want to watch it again. And I will say this, though. the snow and the dark and stuff, movies with a lot of snow really do look pretty, I think. And it was a good looking movie, but it was weird. It was definitely weird. And I think even with subtitles, I'd be like, this is weird, you know? So, I don't, if you want to watch it, go ahead, I guess. But I can give another shout out to the, that YouTube channel. I'd rather go there, to be honest. What's so great about that? And I'd be honest, what was so great about that movie? I know it got good acclaim. This is weird. It's a weird movie. Anyway, I'm Casey Kidd, Kamikaze Kidd, blown up all over this bitch. Take it away, Baka boy. Um, 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 you know, and, to fix his muscles up, to get them all nice and hard. Oh, God. That's a clean drop.